Hey, so I thought on this episode I would reel it back and take you on a journey of how WholeFit actually began. But not only that, I actually take you way back to the year of 1991. There was something that happened in my life that shaped my heart and shaped the work that I do today. And I think you'll find this episode really helpful if you're feeling like it's just so hard right now and you're just not sure when your break is coming. You're going to see that there were a lot of times through what I personally share where it didn't make sense, but now that I look back, the whole thing makes sense. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode and share it with your friends if you think that they might find value in it as well. Hey, it's Ange Peters, and welcome to WholeFit Talks, a weekly broadcast streaming live on the WholeFit Facebook page. So excited to have you join us as we jam on living, loving, and leading a supernatural life. 3, 2, 1. We're live. Hello, you guys. Hi, Julia. We are here 2 minutes late, but we're here. Hello, Betty. Say hello if you guys are live, and hello over to Instagram. I have a special topic on my heart today, so I'm pumped to have you guys join in live. Before we do, if you're brand new, please say hello in the comments. This is a weekly show that streams on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, whether you're joining us here live on the Facebook page or over on Instagram Live. Great to have you. Welcome to WholeFit Talks. This is a weekly live broadcast that streams in both places and then I upload to iTunes. So if you prefer to hang out with me while you're on the go or while you're going for your run or while you're driving or whatever you like to do, I'm the same as you. I always have podcasts in when I'm doing things that don't need me to concentrate on too many things at once. And currently, my running, for example, I don't have to concentrate too hard while I'm running. Haven't tripped or fallen yet while I've listened to podcasts. So I'm very similar to you. I love to listen on the go. So I'm so pumped that you guys are here. And I kind of want to dive right in today because I have a whole topic I want to explore with you today. And it's the topic of we all have to start somewhere. And I knew I needed to do an episode like this, so it's a little bit different than I normally do. As you might know, I usually do Q&A. Sometimes we do a whole show of Q&A on anything from business, health, being a mom, being a leader, being an entrepreneur. And I might take a few questions depending on how long this goes today based on the topic today. But for those of you that left questions in the queue over on the Facebook page, I will get to you first thing on the next Q&A broadcast, okay? So like I said, the topic today is really thinking about how we all have to start somewhere, right? We all have that moment where, you can think of it almost like that sliding door moment where things could have gone one way, but you took them in another way. And when you reflect back, you realize how all of the dots connect, right? You realize how sometimes those what may have seemed like little decisions at the time turned out to be the biggest decision you ever made for yourself and for your family. And maybe you didn't quite know how things were going to work out. And I knew I needed to do this topic because a lot of you are new here to my brand. Some of you might be, maybe we've connected because of doTERRA. Maybe you're on my essential oil team. Maybe we've connected for various other health inspirations and you're here. And sometimes you can look at somebody and think, oh, it's easy for them, or, oh, they have all these things. I could never do that. And a friend of mine was over the other day and she was saying, Ange, I love your new website. For those of you that are new here, I'll put it up on the screen for you. If you don't know my website, it's been upgraded. It has a brand new home, wholefit.com. But she said, for people who are just getting to know you now, and they see the new website, and they see your broadcasts and all the things you do, how are they ever going to know the Ange of like 10 years ago? How are they going to know that this had to start somewhere? And it looked pretty amateur for a long time. I mean, there are still many things that I do that there's always going to be somebody that excels in what you're doing and is doing it better than you, but that can't be a reason to stop, right? But for some of you, you might look at my website, you might look at my brand and things like that and think it's always been that way, and it hasn't. And so it got me thinking, I want to do an episode like this so that I can stop time when I need to, so that I can share things, share an episode with you or with somebody down the road that thinks that they have to have it all together in order to begin. And that is the farthest from the truth, right? We all have to start somewhere. And I've told my story over the years in various ways, on different podcast interviews, on different summits, things like that. But it's just been bits and pieces here and there. And I've never really told the full expanded story. Some of you may have seen the video I did with doTERRA a couple years ago. I actually uploaded the audio last month. It's called Welcome to Whole Fit. And it's like an 8-minute podcast clip that kind of, this does what I'm going to say to you today in 8 minutes. But today I want to reel it back, especially for those of you that I've only, gotten to know over the last couple of years. I know there are some people on here who remember, maybe when I first started and a lot of the things I was doing back then. And I'd love to hear from you if that's you. And I'm sharing this today with you guys because I know that some of you right now, you are 99% there. You are like right around the corner from the whole thing changing. Sorry, 1 second. I'm just trying to, how do I get that off here? There we go. Some of you are right around the corner from your breakthrough and you don't know it. And you might quit just before things are about to change. And I want to encourage you today, as you're listening to this, to realize that all of the dots connect in some way. You just sometimes can't see it with the same perspective when you're in the muck, right? When you're in the early stages and things feel hard and you're stretching yourself and you're not even sure if it's worth it. How many of you are in that stage right now where you're like, I don't know why I'm doing this. Everything feels hard. I feel like everything I go to do, I have to learn like a child all over again. And that's growth. When we are in the growth season of our life, it's going to feel hard. It feels hard with a capital H. You are like in it, right? And it's tough to see where it's all going. So share with each other if that's you right now. Comment, if you're in that season and you have a feeling that things are about to turn around. My hope and my heart in sharing this is that you can see that, I could have actually quit 10 years ago. I could have quit even 5 years ago when things were happening. And as I was rising up, I was feeling so alone at times and I could not figure out what it was all for. But of course, now I look back and I can see how it all, connected. So anyway, welcome if you're just hopping in. Today's episode is all about how we all have to start somewhere. This is going to be an emotional share for me today. So I'm going to try to keep it together. I'm truly in awe of the orchestration of how our lives come together and how, we realize that every experience is a piece of the puzzle. Okay, so, for many people, when they're first starting out in something, the most difficult thing is trusting the message on their heart, is trusting that what they are excited about and what they are genuinely curious about and want to learn and live and therefore teach. In the beginning, it can feel almost like you want to tuck that away. Maybe you're even sometimes embarrassed of the big visions and goals you have for yourself, and you want to tuck that away. But the beginning of all of this, some of you are still learning this. The beginning of your whole life changing, step one has to be that you build trust with yourself first, number one. Because when you start anything new, and this is the topic today of starting, right? Of starting to create your best life. Doesn't matter how old you are or where you're at in your life, this, is essential that you build trust with yourself, because when you're starting something new, you're going to face a lot of yucky resistance coming up in yourself, right? You're going to try to take yourself out of the game a lot. When things get hard, you'll be tempted to drop back to what feels easy because that's what you've done the majority of your life. You're going to be tempted to doing things early, take shortcuts, stop your work that you're supposed to be doing for your, whatever it is that's on your heart, and go meet that friend for coffee. There will be all those things, these little obstacles that come up in the beginning. And all of that is happening for you to strengthen your trust with yourself. I want you to realize that, number one, and some of you are in that stage right now, where it's like so easy to let yourself off the hook. It's so easy to quit. It's so it does not matter what your business is. I know I attract a ton of doTERRA leaders to this broadcast. This shows up for them in the judgment of others. What will they think now that you're, a mom working with your intuition on the health of your family, and not so much what the news is telling you to do? Or maybe it's showing up when you, teach an essential oils class and nobody shows up. What you need to understand is this is all happening for you. If it didn't happen for you, you would never learn to build that trust with yourself. And how do we build trust with ourselves? We do what we say we're going to do. We show up, we do the work, we keep our head down, we stay focused on what we know we're here to do, okay? So I want to take you guys on a journey. This actually goes back to 1991 for me. And as I share this, please grab a notebook. I love to take notes whenever I'm listening to other, broadcasts or podcasts. I always have a notebook going. I want you to take notes as I'm going, and I want you to think about, as I'm sharing some of the pivotal moments in my life, I want you to think about what those moments have been for you. And that's actually going to be the homework today. The whole fit homework at the end of this episode is going to help you as you navigate that. But just free form your notes, jot as things come, okay? Okay. Keep it together. Okay. So back in 91, I was 10, about to turn 11. My dad dies of cancer. Now, my whole childhood, you guys, he battled cancer. He was diagnosed, I think, when I was 2. And I'm a leader today, much because of the impact his own leadership had on me as a little girl. He was the most charismatic, the boldest, most on fire for God warrior I have ever known to this day. And as a young girl, I was fascinated by his relationship with the spiritual world, with the Holy Spirit, with the way he would just, he made every day count. Thanks, Bex. I remember many times as a little girl hearing him praying through the vents of our house. I could hear his voice, and he would often do fasting, for example, to be in complete alignment with his purpose. And it's hard to express what this does to encounter someone like that as a little girl, and to have that kind of example in my life as I was, first experiencing the world. I also had the honor of knowing another great human being. My grandfather was a very well-known preacher. And he was actually born in a log cabin in a town of a couple thousand people. And he went on to speak in the largest churches in the world, in Seoul, Korea, to hundreds of thousands of people, in Times Square Church in New York City. And he was born in this small little town, had everything going against him, never got to know his father. His father died just before he was born. And one of the books he actually wrote was From Log Cabin to Pulpit. And I actually found it on Amazon earlier this summer for $7. And of course I bought the copy. My lineage is rich, right? There were these experiences I was gifted growing up of people who made it count, who did not dilute who they were for the world. They showed up big, they made it count, and they would have given anything to have more time, right? They wasted no time in living their purpose, you guys. And this really left an impact on me. And what I'm sharing with you right now, these experiences I'm going to share with you, are much of why I have so much conviction about the work that I do. And I'm going to keep elaborating on that, okay? In 96, I was 16 at the time. My mom had remarried. My word, I hope she's not watching right now because I'll be a mess if I know she's watching. In 96, my mom had remarried. They had a little girl and she passed away with leukemia. You guys, she just had, was about to turn 4 when she passed away. And my heart broke for my mom. I'm 16. I'm like, what the F is going on here? Why has cancer hit our family twice, right? In such a short window of time? What is going on? I mean, there were no words for this type of loss. There are no words for a mother losing her child to cancer. There is no explanation for that. The only thing I could come to realize at that time is something's wrong. Something is wrong in our world right now. Why are kids now being diagnosed? I mean, this has gone on to get worse, as we know. This was back in 96, right? So, okay, so here's the thing. I came into my 20s and I had this anger towards like just unanswered questions, just not understanding, how this happened. And I think I kind of derailed a little bit in my 20s, to be honest. I had to do some unpacking, some unlearning, trying to understand this. It was in 98, I began working for Starbucks. And, I had just graduated high school. I went on to university to study health sciences. I started working at Starbucks, which would turn into a 10-year career. I met Chris in 98, 99. I was a barista at Starbucks, right? So we've now been together for 20 years. And that kicked off a whole decade for me of, really working hard in a corporation that I loved, in a culture that I loved. And a lot of what I learned at that time, I'm grateful for that experience. I learned about the power of creating meaningful experiences for people. I learned what it meant to work hard. I learned how to manage people. By the time I had left Starbucks, I was in a district management position. I had been in operations management. I learned how to manage people. Thankfully, I never have to do that another day in my life. Management will suck you dry. Leadership is a very different ball game. At that time, let me just go back for a second. In 98, like I said, I met Chris. A couple months after we started dating, he left to go to Texas, A&M. I don't know if we have any Texans on right now. He left for Texas to go to firefighting school. And he ended up being hired. Oh man, I've some of my old baristas are on live right now. Hello, Tamara. They worked at the store I managed way back. See how it all connects? I'm going to share more on that in a moment. So back, Chris was hired in the city of London, Ontario, which at that time was over a 2-hour, drive from where we lived. So he would commute, both ways, 2 hours both ways. And we went on to do that for 10 years, you guys, just about. So I'm gonna keep on a timeline here as best so that I can. Okay, so I mentioned my Starbucks period. I want to fast forward to 2009. So at this time, I had hit this level of success within my corporate job, and I realized there was not much further I could go. So whether you want to call that like that ceiling that caps us, I mean, you do learn this when you work really hard at something in a conventional business model. There's only so far you can go, right? So this is why I always say to people, if you're willing to work hard for yourself, you're unlimited when you own your own business or when you build a business with doTERRA. You're completely unlimited. There is nobody holding you back but you. But I was feeling held back, and I left for my first mat leave in 2009 when I became a mother for the first time. So I had this 10-year period behind me, and I actually would have been able to take a sabbatical at that point with Starbucks if I didn't have a maternity leave. I'm grateful for the year that we get in Canada to understand our new role as a mother. I wish that for the world, that they would have that time. But anyway, back in 2009, I became a mom, like I said. I began blogging for the first time. Now, You guys, 10 years ago, blogging was like what we experience, Facebook and even podcasts to be today. Blogging was relatively new. It was the way to connect with people in the online space. When I began blogging, people actually commented on your blogs. This was like how we would go back and forth, where, I would follow people in their blogs and you'd comment, you started to build community. And I started this blog called Swell Little Life. And it was really documenting, life as a mom. And man, did I love it. Oh, I get the warm and fuzzies when I think about the blogging days and just the people I met. And it was so meaningful to me to be able to connect with other moms at a time when I felt alone. None of my friends had babies at that time. And to be honest, I was, 28, 29 when I had my first. So I was a little older than a lot of my friends at that time who had their first children. So blogging for me was where things really started to take a bit of shape, but I didn't realize it at the time. So began blogging. Also within that first year, I thought, you know what? I need to figure this out. I need to make this time count. I have a year before I decide whether to go back to the 6-figure job or really start to live my calling. And I mean, I've always known that these early childhood experiences were going to come back and mean something. I just couldn't figure that out in my 20s, okay? There was still pain there though, and there was still an eagerness to understand and a desperation to feel empowered. It was a very disempowering feeling to be young and be going through those experiences as a family and feel like everything was out of our control. I know a lot of you can relate to that feeling, whether it's with your own healthcare or with somebody you love. We've all been there in some capacity. So there was a quote. I love quotes. I've always loved being inspired. I eat inspiration daily as like my diet. I soak it up. And when I started blogging, I had this whole sidebar on my blog called Inspiration Bites. And there were some really, my favorite quotes I posted there. And one of the quotes that I was really like living by at that time was by E.E. Cummings. And he's quoted as saying, to be nobody but yourself in a world doing its best day in and day out to make you like everybody else means to fight the hardest battle any human being could ever face. So essentially, to be you, to live the calling on your life is the bravest thing you could ever do, because the world wants you here. The world wants you in a box. Some of the people tightly knit around you in your social circle, in your family, they desperately need you to stay stuck because it's a daily reinforcement of their own stuckness. And so it's actually quite scary to branch off and follow the calling of your heart. And I was definitely in that space for that year of my maternity leave. I'm a brand new mother. I felt like, okay, I've got to make this happen. I've got to start living and leading and learning with what I care about, with what means the world to me and what I know I'm here to do. And it was this intersection of what I was passionate about, which truly was holistic health, and also the painful experiences I've had. Those were very much a part of my drive of wanting to be a reason that someone else could feel empowered, even when they're in their darkest times, okay? So, this is an important trajectory moment for me, was in that year of my maternity leave. Cool. Some of you are saying that's when we first connected. That's so special to me that you're still here. Okay, so where do we go from here? So, Swell Little Life started, and then I turned that blog about 6 months later. I changed the name of it. I changed course. I'm like, I don't want to blog about just being a mom and pregnancy and, being a new mom. I want to take this in the direction of health and what I'm passionate about. So I changed the blog to be called Health and Swell Being. And this was about 6 months into my maternity leave, and I got to work. I got my certifications as a personal trainer. I started schooling as a holistic nutritionist and health coach, and started taking on clients after I received my certifications, and worked with people in person, when I could. During lunch hours, I'd get up at 6 a.m. and train clients. I'd, stay up late after I got Chloe down and just made it happen, right? Like, looked for those tiny pockets of time that I could to start really learning, what it meant to work with people and help them in their goals. And Just start to walk this out. Even though I had no idea that it would be even remotely close to what it is today, it was like do or die, honestly. It just was one of those moments where I thought, I have to make this work. And now about 7 or 8 months into my first year of coaching, we found out I was pregnant again. Yeah, I'm saving this. These will save. I upload these videos to YouTube, you guys. If you want the video podcast, of course, on iTunes. So found out I was pregnant with our second babe. And so this is now in, late 2010. And Chris and I had some big decisions to make at that time. So our second baby was going to be coming along. And he at that time he had been commuting back and forth for almost 10 years, 2 hours there and back. And we just thought, you know what, we've got to figure out where we're going to really plant ourselves and grow roots. And we realized at that time, we've got to move to London. Now, this was actually a pretty big deal because this was going to be 2.5 hours away from where we lived. Far, close enough, but far enough, right, that you couldn't really stay with your people. I had no friends in London. I had no family in London. And we put our house up for sale and ended up moving a week after Emmy was born. So we literally got in the car with our suitcases, head to London, and the fresh start began, okay? So this was actually a huge moment for us because how many of you, I'm just curious watching right now, how many of you have actually had a fresh start recently? Maybe you've moved to a brand new city, new community. Maybe you completely changed your friends and in your social circle and just had a really fresh start. It can be really scary when you're in it, right? But I assure you what you will find is it turns out to be one of the most important decisions you make at times. If you're feeling like things are not going to be going in the right direction for you if you stay where you are. This doesn't always mean you have to physically get up and move. It could be ending a career. It could be, like I said, changing up your friendship circle. It can take on many forms, but fresh starts are powerful. Okay, so when Emmy was 3 months old, we're brand new in London. I had just had my second C-section. I was probably like the poster child for postpartum depression at that point because I had nobody here around me. And I thought, I've got to get out of the house. And I took her and we signed up for a mom and baby Pilates class. She was 3 months old. It was so sweet. Go to this class, and I meet the owner of this wellness center, and it turns out that they're hiring for a holistic nutritionist and a stroller boot camp instructor. Dots connect, right? So obviously I said, you know what, this feels a little soon, but I'm going to take the job. I need to get out there and I want to meet new people, and I want to basically start living my passions as soon as possible, because this could go either way at this point, right? Like I could have totally hid under a rock and just, woe is me, we're in a new city and I know nobody. Or I could figure out how to, dial up my passion right away. So I took the job. I took it on about 4 or 5 months after Emmy was born, and went on for 3 years to do a lot of work in person with hundreds and hundreds of women. I opened up my in-person studio there, trained hundreds of women in their personal training, fitness, stroller boot camp, which was so much fun, you guys. I would take these groups of 20 moms and their babies through the parks of London, and we'd work out. It was great. It was such a community builder. I created also within that time frame 2 core programs of mine: Eat Clean, Get Lean, which I don't run anymore, but ran that for a couple of years. And then the Ready, Set, Glow Detox, which started way back then and still runs. A lot of you here have participated in that with me. I became an ambassador for Lululemon, which basically meant I was some of their arms in the community. As an ambassador, you work with Lululemon to create experiences for people. You go to different Lululemon events and really tap into the culture. I love the culture of Lululemon. And so that happened around there. And then the other cool thing I always like to share is in the early days, so when the girls were young and I was just starting to build Whole Fit up, 2011 through 2014, one of the things that I share that is quite useful for people, they were young. So Emmy was about 2 and Chloe was 4. And I used to take them to the local Good Life gym. not so that I could work out, Billy. I would go do like a 20-minute workout, but it was so I could build my business from this change room stall. I would, this is funny. I would bring my laptop into the gym change room, and I'd swipe that curtain across that women would use when they're going to get naked. And I would be tapping away at my computer because it was an hour and a half that I could just get complete focus, aside from seeing like naked women walking around on their feet anyway. And I crushed it. I would like just pump it out, get really focused. And then a lot of late nights, I would stay up till 1, 2 in the morning, a lot of those nights, just creating, serving, creating value to add to people's lives. And honestly, you guys, for that 3-year period, I was maybe making 20 grand a year at the most. So I do want to, I don't know if I need to say this, but you can imagine some of the concern that people around me had, right? You left your great job at Starbucks to do this. Like, are you crazy, right? And so the most important thing I want to stress to you about this time period is I believed so much in what I was creating. I believed in my voice, even though I didn't know if anyone else would. I believed that what I had created mattered. I believed that I had something to share with the world that was going to be of value to people. And that's what kept me going. Because honestly, you know, going my whole life making great money, but not giving the world my best, that would have just felt soul sucking to me. Like, why bother? That's how I felt. And so money isn't everything, right? And so I made that decision, and through my own belief in myself, I had to guide other people around me to believe in me. I had to, you know, it wasn't like Chris right away believed in everything I said I was going to do. In fact, I remember having conversations with him. Some of those nights when I would stay up late blogging or getting up at 5 in the morning to train a client. You know, sometimes it did become about, you know, is this really worth it? Why are you happy? Like, do you really want to do this? Is it really financially worth it? Like, we had those conversations. But through my own belief in what I was creating, even though I couldn't see it yet, it kept me in the game. And that has to be solid. You know, you have to cultivate that. And then other people start to catch note of you, and other people start to believe in you. So end of 2011, 2012, I took everything online, right? So I spent 3 or 4 years really working in person with women. Then the next level was to take it online. And again, back in 2011, 2012, the online space was expensive. There were a lot of barriers and obstacles, and not a lot of people were doing it. And so I wanted to find a way to start increasing my reach and my impact and grow an audience online, to take what I was doing in person and create that online. I love creating community. So I opened up my online health school. Some of you remember Powwow, and I would do personal training online. I would train clients all over the world, early morning, late nights. I took everything I had been doing in person and brought it online. So I brought Eat Clean, Get Lean online. I brought the Ready, Set, Glow Detox online. I started creating ebooks, little ebooks. They're in the library right now. They're all getting updated this fall. But like meal prep webinars and ebooks, and how to make kombucha and sprouts, and what else? Back to school ebooks, holiday ebooks. I mean, you name it. I just kind of kept, as things would come to me, I'd create it. And these were long days, long hours. And I think a lot of people quit at that stage. And I'm going to keep saying this today, but I hope through what I'm sharing, you understand that it all connects. Jenny, that's hilarious. She said, I remember your Christmas workout with you dressed up like a Santa Claus. That's what you do. Okay, let me stay on track here. Now, one of the kickoffs to creating my online presence was back in 2011, 11 and 12. I ran a 30-day free health challenge. Anyone here do it? Where I showed up every single day and taught you a new health habit. And this was back 8 years ago, when some of these things were not popular at all. Dry skin brushing, lemon water, green smoothies, you know, things that were not really being talked about, but that I learned in health school. I was practicing in my own life, and they were like the little shifts that made the big change. And so I ran this 30-day challenge completely free, and through that created a lot of buzz, a lot of connection with people, so that when down the road, even though I didn't know what I was going to be doing, I had this very engaged audience that I had built trust with. Okay, and that was really the kickoff to what began my rise in doTERRA. Okay, was that time frame. So another thing I'll mention is in 2012, I had launched my first podcast with my friend Jill. It was called The Holistic Health Diary. You guys, we had no idea what we were doing. And Jill was somebody that I had met early on when I moved here to London. And, you know, we just had a lot in common. We loved talking about holistic health and ways to just rock a healthy life. And so we thought, hey, let's come together and do a podcast. And we had no idea what we were doing. And this is important to know. If you are determined to do something and figure it out, you will. Everything's there for you. Literally everything I've ever learned in business, I have taught myself through YouTube. I have been resourceful. If I can't figure it out, I find who can teach me. Everything is out there, ready to teach you. You just have to figure it out. So that was back when podcasting wasn't a thing at all, also. So I kind of had that feeling that people might want to tune into things through audio. I thought it was a cool way to reach people. Okay, and then in 2013, I was introduced to doTERRA. Now, at that time, you know, I'd been doing all these things, and so I was kind of growing a bit of a brand, a bit of an awareness online. People were starting to know about me and my work. And this is how my friend now, who I didn't know at the time, connected with me about doTERRA. So her husband actually saw my brand one day and said, hey, you should really reach out to this girl. She's all about the plant-based lifestyle, and I think she loved the oils. So, and I had been using essential oils for a couple of years. I should probably talk about this on another show. I had been using Young Living, another brand, and I had a family member who was actually building Young Living at the time. Okay, so the plot thickens there on another show. I'll take that topic. But anyway, she samples me, continues to check in with me, and just, you know, drip content and different things my way. I got to figure out my hair for a second. It's backwards. There we go. She basically follows up with me for 6 months. And I ended up purchasing a home essentials kit in December 2013, just to use the oils. I had no intention of really doing much with the sharing side of it. I thought, oh, I'll probably blog about it here and there. I like oils, but I thought they were just pretty smells. Okay. Had no idea at all. And so this is where, you guys, January through March 2014, everything started to make sense to me. Everything I had been doing up until then started to make sense, because I realized, okay, I took 3 months after I got my oil kit, and I studied doTERRA hard. I was looking at everything. I was so drawn to these oils, and I was so drawn to the work that they were doing around the world. But I didn't really know anybody that I could trust that was doing it. I did not know a single person in Canada using doTERRA. I actually thought initially it was a family-run business, because everyone I had talked to up till that point was related. So I had no idea. And so I stayed up till like 2 a.m. every night. Yep, I totally remember this time, you guys. Learning, and not telling anybody that I was actually studying this. So I would talk about the oils a little bit on Instagram and stuff when we had, you know, some things pop up that the oils solved for us. I shared in that way. But what was actually happening was my whole heart was expanding around the work that they were doing. And I was so drawn in. I mean, I ate up everything. I am so grateful to the people that were sharing at that time on YouTube and wherever. I mean, I was soaking everything up that they were teaching about oils. I had no idea how many areas of our life they could impact. I truly didn't. And it shocked, I mean, every once in a while, right, we shock ourselves with, we think we know so much, right? Until you're like, oh my gosh, this whole other world just opened up I had no clue about. And I'm so grateful for those leaders to share. And to be honest, it's why I continue to show up for you here as a way to give back, because I just was a sponge and everything was there. I could find everything that I needed in order to make the next move. So I held my first class in March 2014 back in my hometown. I invited over 100 people and about 40 came. I had no clue what I was doing. The next month, I did the same thing in London where I live. I invited another like 60, 70, had about 30 people come, and so it began, okay? Classes and classes and classes kept filling in my schedule. Everybody, wanted to keep learning about these oils. I would notice at that first class, there'd be a mom that would say, hey, would you come to my house and teach this class? I'm like, sure, no clue what I'm doing. But what happened was I kept teaching, kept showing up. I realized I had to change the way I was, running my business. I thought, I'm going to give doTERRA 6 months of my complete focus and see what happens. And it was really this curiosity, like, I wonder what would happen if I just parked some of the other things and really carved out the time to do this for real. That was really on my heart at that time. That was the question. So, and I'm gonna elaborate a little more about the doTERRA side of things in a few minutes. But this was, again, another tough time for me because the girls were young, 2 and 4. And I ended up going on for about 1.5 to 2 years, teaching 2 to 3 times a week. And Chris was working full time as a firefighter, still does, okay? And so we had to make it work. This was a really stretching time for us. I mean, when you go to teach a class, it's a whole night, right? Like you go and you show, and often I was sometimes driving to Toronto, like 2 hours away or whatever. And, you teach a class and everyone wants to hang out after and ask questions. And it's a commitment of your time, right? And I wasn't quite sure where this was going. I knew I loved the oils. I knew I loved sharing them with people, and I knew they were changing lives. And that kept me going, kept me saying yes. So what happened was I hit elite within a month or two. Like it might have even been in my first month. I had no idea what that meant because I'd had a lot of people come to that first class. Just to share a funny story with you guys about how much I didn't know what I was doing. At my first class, my first 2 classes, I was selling doTERRA at full price retail. I had a table at the back. Oh my gosh, comment if you guys are on here and you attended that first class. I had like intro kits of oils for sale. I was selling diffusers out of the trunk of my car. I had created a whole fit apothecary lines. I was making skincare and selling it. I mean, I had no clue how to properly guide people and connect them to their own wholesale account. That's like the only thing to do. Please don't ever do what I did. But again, I didn't know anybody really doing this. So I'm like, this makes sense. I'll just order things in for people or I'll charge them full price. Yeah. Chris is on right now. He said, let's talk about making skincare in the kitchen. Yeah, that was fun. Lots of learnings along the way. Okay, so let me keep on track. I developed a strong relationship with the oils because of my usage of them and combining that with what I was learning. It was so strong, and I was having these incredible experiences in our home with the girls, especially. They were young, right? I was starting to really tap into that feeling as a mom where it's like, wow, I got this and I got that. And like, I got this. I can solve that. I couldn't believe how I was feeling. And again, keep in mind, one of the core drivers for me is to feel empowered. I don't want to feel like I don't ever want to feel again like we did when I was little, ever. And I don't want that for anybody. I want you to at least be able to make a choice. Okay. Okay, so I hit gold rank in 4 months. I have my little certificates to show you guys, like a super nerd. There's my elite one. I save all these. Okay. I hit gold in 4 months because there were 2 founding positions still in Canada. So real quick, you can become a founder in the new market if you're one of the first, usually 20 people, to hit a leadership rank, meaning you are willing to pioneer this when there are so many blocks, when there are so many reasons why a business shouldn't, be successful. Founders are very special people, you guys, in countries. And for those of you that are using doTERRA today, there are people who did a lot of hard work to create what exists today. And so there were 2 founder positions. And again, I'm like, you know what? I am like in love with what this company is doing. So I worked with my upline to figure out how to hit gold. What does that mean? Structuring, and building a team and all that. And I ended up grabbing the 19th founder position in Canada. Went to my first doTERRA convention the following month as a gold. So this was back in 2014. There were 2 women who came with me on my team. 2. We're over 1,000 this year. There were 2 women that came with me. One of those women came back to grab the last founder position in Canada. And she's on right now. I won't call her out, but maybe she'll identify herself. Something really big shifted at convention. Let me know, who here is going to convention next week? My friend Kyle, last week on a show he did, he was talking about the power of events. You can't quite put into words what happens when you're there and present. And something he said, which I just love. Like, this is like, type this out, write it on a Post-it. He said, you cannot lead someone else if your level of belief is the same as theirs. Why in the world would somebody want to follow you, join you as a leader, if they have a feeling that your level of belief is the same as theirs? You're not going to guide them anywhere with the mindset you hold if it's the same as theirs. If your mindset is not like all in the work that you're doing, how in the world can you lead someone else to want to believe in what you're doing, right? And the fastest way to increase your belief in what you're doing is to show up, is to be there. If you're not going this year, you guys, you need to make a plan to be there next year. It's the most powerful health event in the world. I've been to hundreds of health seminars and summits over my life. They don't even hold a candle to what you learn at doTERRA's convention. There are people that fly in that are not even using the oils yet because the research is that insanely good, okay? It changes lives. So I came back and I hit platinum 2 weeks later after convention. November 2014, I hit diamond. March 2015, I hit blue diamond. December 2015, we became the first presidential diamond team in Canada. This is big. This hadn't been done yet. Remember, I was one of the last to squeeze in for even a founding position, okay? We were the first presidential diamond team in 2015. About a year and a half after my first class. That's what happened. And there were hundreds of oil classes in between and a lot of long days, late nights, but my heart was pulling me to continue to drive this movement forward. This is the movement that is healing the world. In May 2016, I started it all over again, okay? So here we are. Forgot to show you my little things. Presidential Diamond in May, started it all over with a second account. doTERRA calls it the M1, okay? And it was never my intention to build another whole team. But what happened was, obviously, I just keep showing my heart, and I love the oils, and my favorite thing in the world is to connect somebody to this lifestyle. And so I had a couple of girls who actually had enrolled as customers with me 4 years back, who I said, hey, or no, I guess it would have been 2 years back at that point. I said, hey, do you have any interest in building a doTERRA business? And they said yes. And so we started again. A couple of them are on right now. We started again, and May, I opened that up. February 2018, I hit double diamond. We hit double diamond. Why am I saying I? We hit double diamond. Yeah, we did. It was like, and again, we were the first double diamond team in Canada. And, it's been a wild ride. There's been a lot of things along the way as this has progressed that I've realized, there are still going to be those times that you're kind of tested, where There are things that will happen that will hurt you. I've had horrible things written about me along the way. There are websites out there today talking about me like I'm a total quack. I've had leaders on within other teams, within other companies say, hey, can you tone it down a bit? I used to be the most important person to my team, and now they're looking at everything you do. That was hurtful. And I said, I love you, and because I love you, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to continue to rise. I'd love for you to join me in rising in your life. And I would say to these leaders, I want you to consider that what you're asking me to do right now, you're probably asking of yourself with your own team. You're diluting yourself out of a fear of what other people will think. There are always going to continue to be those things happening for us that are pulling out, that are growing deeper roots in our leadership and in our understanding of the work and what we're here to do. Okay. And I will never, ever dilute who I am and who I'm here to be for someone else. And I hope that many of you understand that you should not ever do that either. There will always be people that will try to make you feel bad for how you are rising up and for how you're showing up. Okay. There will always be. But the thing is, that actually becomes the worst feeling in the world, to dilute yourself for other people. All of this has given me great clarity, you guys. When I look at where we're at today, I see how all the dots connect. And our convictions in our work and what we do, they are there because of what we've gone through in our life. If somebody is going to write negative things about me, if like the worst thing that could ever happen happened, they don't even understand what they're up against. They're up against my spirit at that point. And my spirit is so strong and has such a conviction around the work that I'm here to do. And you have to have a willingness. For me personally, I would rather die than live a lukewarm life. Does that resonate with you? Do you guys feel that about your own life right now? I would rather die than live my life lukewarm or to dilute myself. There is no point. If we are in that state, we need to shift it. We need to get to work. Okay? And I have no time for people who are rooted in living lukewarm or rooted in entitlement or rooted in drama or rooted in dragging the world down. I have no time. In fact, this way of living is boring to me. I don't even look twice. When you experience loss in your life, and I don't believe you have to in order to understand what's important, but when you experience loss in your life, you develop a really good radar of what's important, right? Like you have no time to mess around anymore. Because, and the thing that I've realized is that anything less than my best in the work that I do would dishonor those that I've lost. 100%. If I don't show up every day and live my purpose, I dishonor those people that are important to me that I've lost, at least in this physical world. Anything less is lukewarm. So I share this with you. Why did I share this with you? Because I needed to share that we all start somewhere. We have to understand that, especially if we are in a difficult time of life, that, don't quit, because that corner is about to happen. And I have witnessed and experienced that in my own life over and over again. My team today, so I want to also share with the dots connecting, you guys. So my team today, I have a global team. We have about 100,000 customers on it using doTERRA. I have a whole blue diamond leg on my team that is filled with people I went to high school with. 2 of my diamond leaders I met back in my early blogging days. They had blogs, I had a blog, we connected then. They're now diamond leaders on my team. 2 of my diamond and blue diamond leaders were part of my Stroller boot camp. They're both on here right now. One of my diamond leaders, our family grew up together. Colleen. We would spend time at their house when my dad was sick. And two of my other diamonds and blue diamonds were attracted to the work I was doing after doTERRA. So because of how I was showing up, I reminded them of what they're here to do. There was an attraction to the work because of I was not diluting myself, and they were drawn to that light, right? We as a team have deep roots, you guys. All of these dots intersect today. We're family. I mean, we're in this for life. It's incredible how a lot of our experiences in life will come back to make sense here. And this whole thing's been orchestrated. If you ever want to learn more about some of the leaders I work with on my team, I've started a page on WholeFit called Nirvana. And I've got some of I've started with my main front line. They're there. And I'm going to link up their stories soon. I guess what I want to share with you is there does come a time where you have to do the thing that feels painful. You have to have the courage to go in a different direction if that's what your heart is telling you to do. You have to believe in yourself first. No one else is going to believe in you first. You have to believe in yourself first and in what you're here to do before anyone else will take note of what you're up to. It's powerful to start and to say, I'm doing this for real, and to honor what you say you're going to do. Absolute truth number one. You have to honor what you say you're going to do. Build that trust with yourself first so that when other people doubt you, you have a strong backbone. Instagram, I'm going to lose you in 2 minutes, so you can hop over to the Facebook page. I want to keep this conversation going. So I want to go through with you guys some resources that have really helped me along the way, and I want to share with you your homework for today, and then I'll take a few questions only on this topic today. So if you have a question, please plug it into the comments. So a couple of resources that really guided me as I was going, and they're books. I have them here for you. Okay. The first, strengths-based leadership, I want to just give this a shout out. So this is the leadership understanding tool that doTERRA uses, is StrengthsFinder. If you were at last year's leadership, that you would have gotten to know yours. But I love this. If you're curious what my strengths are and how they've come into play here, activator's number one for me, which makes a lot of sense when I think about how all the paths connect with my team, like I just shared. Competition's my number two, which some might feel is a negative thing, but this 100% has to do with myself. Every day, I challenge myself with love to be a little better than yesterday, to see where I can grow. And then my number three is learner. And I'll tell you, there's a shadow side to learner, okay? The shadow side is that you never actually take action. So as a learner, in my top three, I love to learn. But as soon as I can put that into practice and be taking action what I've learned, that's where the real impact happens, okay? So if you're a learner, I want to challenge you to do something this week with what you've learned, okay? Now, beyond that, there were 3 books that were pivotal for me as I was navigating this. Yes, come on over, Instagram, Facebook pages, keep her going. Number one, I have to shout out the book Crush It by Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V. He's pretty known today. He was not as known back in 2009 when I first read this book. I actually had it on Audible. I was training for my first 10K race and decided instead of listening to music, I'm on my mat leave. I'm like, oh, what am I doing? How am I going to get things going in the right direction? So I thought, I'm going to sign up for a 10K. I'm going to train my little guts out, and I'm going to listen to books as I run. And I actually ended up listening to only this book, you guys, Crush It. I had it on Audible, and I listened to it 3 or 4 times while I was running. This book changed my life. Thank you, Gary V. Because it made me realize, if we have a dream in our heart, get out there and get after it. Stop holding back. It was such a meaningful topic for me at that time. The second book I want to recommend is The Desire Map from Danielle Laporte. It basically helps you navigate how to create goals that feel really good for you. Because there's so many different paths you can take and ways to do things, but it has to light you up. It has to be a goal with soul, as she talks about. So this is a really great book. And then the last one I want to recommend you read on this, as you're navigating, is Big Magic. And this basically explores the idea that there are things that only you are meant to do. Okay? There are things that will visit you as ideas that you could easily squash and say, oh, that's not for me, or who am I? Blah, 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 boring, boring, boring. There are ideas that visit you because they are yours to birth. Because of who you are, and because of your experiences in life, the pain you've experienced, the joys you've experienced, what lights you up. There's a reason it lights you up. And this book helps you realize that it's by no coincidence that that next big idea is visiting you. You are the one that's meant to bring that forward. Okay. Now your homework today has to work with that a little bit. Okay, has to do with that. I want you to hop over. You can either go to WholeFit and go to the freebies section where I have the productivity and coaching tools, or you can go directly. I'll type it up on the screen here. bit.ly, bit.ly/HF branding. I have a couple of worksheets there for you to work with. The simplest one and a powerful one is basically life school. It's a very simple image. It has you thinking about what are those experiences in your life that make sense to you when you think about the work you're here to do. And it's time to dial it up and get to work. That worksheet is powerful because it makes you realize we are all students and we are all teachers. Okay, some of you are very good at things I am not. And maybe you come here because there's things that I'm good at that you need to develop in. Okay, so understanding who you are, why you have the ideas that have come to you and the different problems you want to solve, it's for a reason. Okay, I'm going to take 2 or 3 questions, comments, and then I'm going to leave you with the most powerful quote, one that has changed my life. How are you guys doing? Hi, Colleen. Thank you. Ingrid, you guys are so sweet. Look at you guys. You're all here. Amanda asked, how do you harness and utilize convention excitement and momentum? It actually takes no effort at all if you're there. Like I said, there's something that happens in your heart, in your mind. You're a completely different person when you leave. I share this with people when they're preparing to do something that really scares them. Like, let's say that's speaking on a stage or hosting your first essential oil class. You leave that class or you walk off that stage a higher version of yourself because you showed up and there's a shift that happens in your cells. So here's how I harness and utilize convention excitement. I share while I'm there the things that have really impacted my heart, but it actually works its way into everything I go on to talk about for the following year. It is like a buffet of inspiration and content and education that I eat off of all year long. All year long, all lifelong. My whole life changed because I went to the first one. Some of you maybe aren't attending live. Maybe you're doing the live stream. So you're going to tap into about 50% of that energy and excitement. You really do need to be there in order to truly integrate what I'm talking about. But live stream would be the second best way. And beyond that, I would say if you do go, I would find some way to communicate what you've learned out to the world. Maybe you don't have a regular show like I do. Maybe it's doing a Facebook Live after. Maybe if you have a team, you figure out a way to highlight a lot of those most important things with your team, right? But develop some integration method to share what you've learned, because that's always the best way to recognize what's working on your heart is what you share. Tara, hi. She says, I'm featured in Crush It. Are you kidding me? What? Dude, tell me where you are. That is so cool. Because she quit her day job to make yarn full time. How amazing. Love that. Yeah, Karen, Gary Vee started off with the Wine Guy show, right? Doing like hundreds of videos back when no one was. And now everyone looks at him and thinks, oh, I'm not you. I can't do what you do, Gary. Same idea here, right? Like, and he talks about this all the time. If you guys listen to his podcast, it's like, get out there and get to work. Stop trying to be an overnight millionaire. Do the work, right? And it all comes. Karen said, when I hear how people grew their business so fast, I always question myself, what am I doing wrong? How would you suggest navigating that? I don't want to compare. Comparison's a dangerous trap and it never leads anywhere good. You're right. So when people have grown their business fast, what I want you to understand is they actually haven't. And I hope what I shared today with you speaks to that. Even though technically I started growing doTERRA, I guess, March 2014, I actually started growing doTERRA in 2009, before doTERRA was even a thing, because I was showing up as a leader at that point. So here's my advice to any of you feeling this way. Whether you started before doTERRA or you're just starting doTERRA now and you don't have any community or audience to impact, you have to start. This is the whole topic of today. You have to start somewhere. So if you weren't putting in the long days and the long hours years before you started doTERRA, you're going to have to do that now. But it's going to be worth it and it's all going to make sense. Back in my corporate days, when I was making six-figure income a year, I thought, dude, like that was like epic, And then by the age of 35, 7-8 years later, I'm making 6 figures a month. But like I said, the start of that, I was very okay with earning $20,000 a year. I was very okay with it because I was living my passion and I knew this was my time to show up and serve and add value to people's lives. And I was willing to do it. I was willing to, figure that out. Nap times, gym time, late nights, early mornings, whatever it took, I was willing to do it. So my advice to you guys, if you're going through this right now, you have to know there's going to be a period of time where you have to build trust with people. You have to show up. You have to serve them. It might take 10 years, but it'll be worth it. It'll be worth it because, like I said, the biggest regret of the dying is that they did not live their life on purpose. There's an article, Google it. The top 5 regrets of the dying is that they didn't live their calling, that they diluted who they were for other people, that they stayed in the box that everyone wanted them to stay in. You guys, this is the spiritual warfare I'm up against every single day is, people trying to take down the good. Because most of the world dilutes themselves. Most of the world is playing small and wants nothing more for you than they have for themselves. But those same people desperately need you to rise. So those leaders I talked about that came to me and said, hey, can you tone it down a notch, Ange? I said, because I love you, I'm not going to do that. Because I know through my own example, you'll either quit because you were never meant to be in this work, or you will rise up in your own life. It might take a couple years, but I know through my own example, it will impact you in the highest way. And so this is the tough stuff, right? Is like busting through that and not worrying anymore what people think. Laura, I'm so pumped to read that. I love that you guys joined today live. So many more watched the recording, but we had a pretty substantial group on live today. So happy to hear this, you guys. It means the world to me to hear from you and to be in this work with you. Hey, Christine. She said, what's the biggest upgrade you took or chose from diamond to blue diamond? Blue diamond's a tough one. Okay, from diamond to, honestly, getting to diamond, we didn't really know a whole lot of what we were doing. It was a little messy. Blue diamond meant I not only had to have a strong system, but I had to have that duplicating throughout my first, 3 levels of leadership. So we had to basically, I basically looked at how I could create massive momentum. And I think that honestly in doTERRA, we do really well at this now. But back 3 years ago, we weren't. We didn't have systems. So that at that time was the upgrade I had to, work into, was shifting out of entrepreneur, like solopreneur mindset, which I was for years before doTERRA, into what it actually meant to lead a team and duplicate that leadership. That it wasn't just about me. It was about how my leaders were coming to life and how they were leading their teams and figuring out systems that worked and what didn't. So that was the big one then. Yeah, Sue. Jennifer, she said, I find it so interesting the timing that I stumbled upon your blog. I was newly returned to work after an extended mat leave, and nothing has been the same since. It was all about meal prep, but now I see it has become so much more. Thanks for sharing so honestly and authentically. Oh, I love that so much. It's amazing how we connect with people. And Jennifer's on our doTERRA team now, building doTERRA, right? So that was like, I don't know, 7, 8 years later, probably. Oh, Chelsea, she said, I had the treat of sitting behind your family and meeting you in person at last year's convention. I love the opportunity to see my role models in person. I would love to meet you guys. My plan, just so you know, I'm in track A on the early bird session. I plan to show up as early as I can get myself together and come hang out in the lineups with you, right along with you. And then we'll get in there, get our butts in our seat on time and soak up the best information in the world. Don't be late. But yeah, let's hang out in line. Drennan, hey, how do you locate other whole fit communities in other states that have been living your lifestyle? She's in Atlanta, Georgia. Just post in our groups. So we have Facebook groups for the oil community and in the business group. So if you're looking for fellow essential oilers where you live, just post on there. Yeah, like we have a Facebook group that has about 22,000 people from our community in it. So I bet if you post it in there, you'll find people. Or, I can always look that up. We have a map of where everyone is. Jolene said, I'm a holistic cosmetologist and just starting doTERRA as a business. What would you say step 1 should be for me? Just go through the launch guide. doTERRA has all the tools now. So go through the launch guide. You'll need to probably repeat the process of the launch guide 3 or 4 times until you really get a good footing. And then it'll be time to lead your team in a different way. And there's guides for all of that. So start with the launch guide for sure. Gail said this will be, I'm like, sorry, I'm pivoting. I have like, my webcam is set up in a different location today, so I'm having a tough time reading the comments. I'll have to remember that for next time. Gail said this will be my 6th convention. Wow, you've been to more than I have. That's awesome. I'm buying the live stream to take notes from. I want to be totally present during the session so that she can get to a position in her business where she can retire her husband. Yeah, I mean, I have a leader on my team who's Diamond, who's renting a hotel room to watch the live stream because she doesn't like to be at in-person large events. So I think you have to figure out a way to channel your focus and integrate it so that you don't just say, oh, I'll watch it next weekend, right? So honor it as if you're actually there. Yes, so you guys are asking, like, how can you watch this as a recording because you jumped in late? The videos are all stored on the Facebook video section, or you can go to YouTube and watch the video there, or you can listen to the audio on iTunes. You can subscribe to, let me put the link up. Subscribe to Whole Fit Talks so that the episodes automatically download to your device. Boom. There we go. Hi, Anna. I can't wait to see you soon. Oh, family reunion. Yes, recordings are always there. Everyone's asking. Thank you, guys. Okay, how about... Yes, Robin, I do show notes for the show. The books that I mentioned, I will have all in the show notes. Okay, and again, I'm everywhere. You can go to Whole Fit and look at the show notes there. I upload I go through this crazy process after the episode finishes to get it into all the places where you need it. So yes, it'll all be there. Lauren, I know you have said you didn't have a ton of help from upline, but what did they do for you? That's not true. I had a lot of encouragement. She physically lived in Utah. So I again, being a learner, and I'm a questioner, I had a ton of questions in the beginning. She was super awesome helping me out, but she wasn't in person with me. And I was growing fast. I was growing to high leadership levels fast. And so I just, used my resources, figured it out. But I have an amazing, very sweet upline who's my friend and she was great. The role of an upline, by the way, is not to, do things for you. They're a connector. They've already done the best thing ever. I always say to Julie, who enrolled me, I always say, like, I'm forever grateful. There is nothing more she could ever do for me. After she introduced me to the essential oils, that was more than she ever could have, done. That was the greatest gift. Rachel, yeah, I want to find you. Okay, just scrolling. I'm going to get to the top here, and then Jolene, I'm speaking at convention, yes, but at the Empowered Success Breakout, I'm talking about how to maximize promotions. Okay, I want to leave you guys with a very important quote to me. This quote has history for me. Some of you have heard this one before. My dad used to say this to us all the time growing up. So let's just like go back full circle here, connect the dots. My mom has it as a painting in her kitchen. And it's by Theodore Roosevelt. Okay, you've probably heard this one, but I want to end on this note because it's just my all-time forever favorite. Okay. It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes short again and again and again. Because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows that in the end, they had the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold, timid souls who know neither victory or defeat. Sometimes, you guys, we don't start out of fear of what other people would think. But those very same people desperately need you to show them what's possible. So rise up, friends. We have to start somewhere. Fail forward. Make all the errors you need to gather the best learning in your life. Create what you wish the world had. And I will see you guys back here in a few weeks. There's no live show next week because #convention. But I think I'm going to upload a podcast episode next week while we're away. We'll be back live September 26th. I'll do a little recap on convention and I'll take your questions. First up for the question queue, I won't forget you, Sandra, Monica, Hannah, Corinne, and Lizzie. I've got your questions down. You'll be first up. Mwah! So much love. I can't wait to see you guys next week. Those of you that are there. And I'll see you back live in 2.